All right, here we are. We are live. Common Sense, Ohio. Like I said, when it's live, it sounds better.
Live.
October 18, 2024. Coming at you with Common Sense from Ohio. That's commonsenseohioshow.com for those who are interested in the website, the blogs, and all the other backlog of episodes. Otherwise, you can catch us on most social media platforms. We are streaming live here today, but that doesn't mean this is the only way you can catch it. You can catch it recorded. Interesting that we have the capacity to record this and play it later. Maybe, just maybe, it's because of the Wizard of Menlo Park, Thomas Edison himself, who invented the phonograph, died this day in 1931. October 18, 1931, Thomas Edison died. Why pick Edison? Well, one, because we're here, exploiting the wonders of the recording devices. Now, he was just a phonograph, but,
Well, the light bulb, a bunch of stuff.
Electricity, light bulb, that kind of stuff.
The dog, the RCA Victor dog. He helped us with that logo, obviously, down the road.
But an Ohio guy.
Electric cars.
Yeah.
Edison had some of the first electric cars.
Yet,
which you can see in
Elon
his
called him a Tesla.
Yep.
Instead of an Edison.
So you can go to Naples, Florida, and Thomas Edison's Florida home is both a museum and
is that right?
Pretty cool place to hang out.
They've got some Edison stuff up in Michigan, right?
I think
Dearborn,
every Smithsonian.
I mean, he invented so much stuff. It's the list is too long to even go through. But he was born in Ohio, born in Milan, Ohio, in 1847. His main lab where he did most of his. Hold on.
Talking in the background? Oh yeah, you are.
Hold on.
Pop-up ad.
And the dangers of live. But his main lab, his machine shop and laboratory, was in Menlo Park, New Jersey, where he enlisted. Now, what's interesting about him is he enlisted help from others. So he diversified. So if he didn't understand it, others helped him. I also didn't know that he had hard of hearing. He was deaf, as they say.
Yeah.
So or somewhat.
I heard somewhere probably some sort of documentary about the light bulb, and he tried thousands of filaments, like experimented with every known thing that you could use to arc between positive and negative and get it to flare up, and before he had any success. And there is, I think, the University of Chicago or the Smithsonian, someplace. They have a light bulb, one of his very first light bulbs, and it is continuously illuminated because they're afraid if they turn it off and turn it back on, it'll blow.
It'll blow. Yeah.
I think I've heard that. That's in itself amazing.
Isn't there controversy? There was somebody else working on this too. So there was a competition here, and he may or may not have been the first, but he is accredited with it to be sure. So anyway, this day in history, 1931, the big guy dies. The wizard dies. So Ohio, again, makes it big.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Anyway, that's this day in history. Now, this week, in present times, the Circleville Pumpkin Show is on. I mean, it is happening, folks.
Yeah.
And this is the greatest free show on earth. Now, what makes it the greatest? I don't know. But I know it is free. At least you can walk in for free. After you get there, they will fleece you for every dollar they can get.
So they announced the winner of the pumpkin show of the because they always that was last night, right? How many pounds this thing is? Did you hear?
I didn't hear this year.
2,200 pounds.
Oh my God!
I saw the picture pop up and go, I got to take a screenshot.
North of a ton.
2,200 pounds.
Wow.
Well, look, my lovely bride is from Circleville, so Pumpkin Show is near and dear to her heart, and now mine. And they always know the folks who are out there growing those pumpkins, and it starts, and they've got their techniques, and they do what they do.
Yeah.
But
their heirloom seeds must be protected.
Exactly.
You're not getting one of these, buddy.
Yeah. Now the dirty little secret is a lot of locals hate it because it shuts down the city. You can't get through Main Street.
Yeah.
And you got to go around. There's detours, and the carnies show up with all their rides and all their stuff, and it's become less neighborly in the last few years and more, I don't know. Showboaty.
That's kind of the way it goes with, there's always haters that just, can't go along. Yeah, it's a week. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, it's a week where your city shuts down and you can't do anything. So I know one of Rachel's uncle is a mechanic down there, and he closes his shop, goes on a trip every week that year.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Plenty of opportunities.
I'm assuming that this 2,200 pound pumpkin, how do they grow it? In regards to, and then
there you go.
Can lift it up onto the truck.
They put harnesses on it, get a backhoe or something.
Oh my gosh!
And lift it up that way. And it's the wonders of chemistry.
Yeah.
The winner in California only weighed 1,200 at Moss Landing.
Well, it's because it's not the greatest. It's
That's
not
right.
the greatest free show on the planet.
Right. I mean, Ohio blew that guy away.
Wow.
And dare you call it, like you did last week, a festival. Because it is not a festival. It's a free show.
Right. And they will correct you.
Well, in the midst of a drought this year.
And, they don't care. They got water.
Somebody had
For
water.
For those who have driven through Circleville, they have lots of water because it's their water tower is shaped and painted like a pumpkin.
Like a pumpkin. Okay.
As you might guess.
Well,
it's a neat little town, actually.
Now, Circleville used to be a round town. It was literally round. They had the city streets were sort of rounded, and they got rid of that. It wasn't functional, I guess. So they got rid of that at some point.
So we bring back roundabouts.
So now we bring it around. But there you are at Court in Maine, the biggest pumpkin on the planet. Sits there yet today. Now, if you haven't been there yet, if you're Central Ohio, or even if you want to drive in, I understand it's a long drive, like if you're in New Jersey, where the Menlo Park Wizard used to live, or if you're in Chicago and you want to get out of that crazy city, come down to Circleville, man. Check it out. It's going all weekend, so actually until Saturday night, they'll shut it down.
Yeah.
And it's gone overnight. I mean, Saturday night it's shut down. By Sunday morning, the street sweepers are out.
Wow.
That is cool.
Nice. Good deal.
So anyway, all right, we got news with Norm, where Norm gives us, he's got his notes like the paper chase over there, and he's, I can already see it. It says CSO on top. Now this is notebook paper this time. His steno pad is on the table, though, ready for reference.
Well, to me, the hottest thing that I've been contemplating ever since Ohio State played Oregon is how in the heck can a coach not kick the ball, right, when you're in field goal range, even though it's a long field goal, with 6 seconds to go? I'm just mystified.
They were what? They were on the 31-yard line at that time.
It would have been around a 52-yard kick.
The guy has a foot for that, but he didn't have 6 seconds. No. By the time there was 6 seconds, they were out of field goal range.
Well, they were, like I said, it would have been about a 52-yard kick.
No. But that was after. No, it was even beyond that. I think they were well out of field goal range. So the real question is the play that got them down into field goal range, they had like 20-some seconds left.
Yeah.
All right? So this is the controversy. And the NCAA has actually changed the rules now. So this is sort of an interesting debate.
Yeah, it is.
So presumably on purpose, the Oregon coach sends out 12 men. And they did that because they knew it would be a penalty and they knew the clock would run. And that's exactly what happened. So it ran the clock from like 22 seconds down to 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Ohio State had a play in there where they got a somewhat controversial call on an offensive interference push-off. I mean, look, is it a penalty? It probably was a penalty. And I always tell people that are complaining about this kind of crap, you can't blame the refs, man. You got to win the game.
Oh no, I blame the coach.
But you can't blame the coach. That was a little bit of a ticky-tack foul to change the outcome of the game. At any rate. Coaching, Ohio State was just flat out coached.
They were.
Absolutely. And look, I'm not saying I would have known that rule, but I don't get paid millions of dollars to know that rule.
Right.
And the Ohio State coaches are big-time coaches who do get paid millions of dollars to know that rule.
Sure.
And as soon as they saw that, they should have said, timeout.
Hello.
And they had plenty of time.
Right.
To do, then they could have run a play. If it's incomplete, great. If it's not incomplete, you still, you can run a play in 6 seconds. You snap the ball down it, and you kick your field goal, and you win the game.
Yeah.
Or at least give yourself a reasonable chance to win the game.
Right.
And so I'm with you, man. I mean, I think this was a coaching blunder of the highest order.
Absolutely.
And we just got out coached. Now, look, there are the people out there, the haters, complaining that Oregon was. Cheating's not the right word. What am I looking for? They got cute with it. They kicked the onside kick and hit the guy and got the ball. Well, look, it's a big game. They won.
Number 3 beat number 2.
Number 3 beat number 2. Now, it was as advertised. It was a great game.
It was a great game. I saw things I've never seen in a football game before.
So
it was fascinating.
It was a fun game to watch. I was at a buddy's house, and it felt good, to be with friends in a party that was in the garage, in the living room, in the basement. Everybody watching the game. There was smoked meat, and it was awesome until we lost.
Well, I'm just thinking, why would you tell your quarterback with 6 seconds to go to run the ball?
Well, he didn't tell his quarterback to run the ball. The quarterback just did, I think.
He did, but, the thing is, once you put that ball into play with 6 seconds to go, he could fumble it. He could throw an interception.
We'll have to look this up.
He should have kicked the damn field goal.
The first thing that should have happened. So, look, going back to the shoulda, woulda, couldas. the big play that gets them down.
Woody would have kicked.
It gets them down into range, right? That was I forget what play it was. It was a big pass play.
Yeah.
Clock is stopped. They line up. They throw the pass play that gets them the offensive interference. The real question is, hand that to your running back, pick up 3 or 4 yards, kick the field goal.
Well, and your running back
has,
whether it's a quarterback or the running back, they have to have an internal clock that says.
No. I'm talking before that. So the big play gets them down. This is before the 12-second thing or before the 12 men on the field thing.
Yeah.
They get down there. I think they're on the 31-yard line, maybe somewhere around that part.
Yeah.
You run the ball, pick up 3 or 4 yards, or maybe pick up nothing, but just secure the football. You've got 25 seconds left to do what you need to do. And then you kick your field goal. Now, I can't necessarily fault them for that little out pattern pass that got them the offensive interference because they were completing that all night.
I'm confining my comments to that final play.
We have to look it up. I think they were out of field goal range. I don't think they could have made the field goal.
That's the claim because the kid missed an extra point, right? Which was much closer range, and so. But
he also kicked a 42-yarder.
Exactly.
Or something like that.
So
look, I think he had the foot to do it, but I think they were. Look, I'm with you. It's like that's a harder call. You only got 6 seconds left. What do you do?
Right. And the quarterback did not slide with like 4. At 4 seconds, he didn't have a clock going in his head. 1, 2, 3.
Now,
if
you
he
play
slides,
it back in slow motion, his knee is down, and maybe they're calling time. Look, you lost the damn game, and it sucks. You got outcoached. That's that.
Right. And you didn't kick when you were within field goal range.
So
long kick, I grant that.
Well, I mean, the kick that should have happened to play. Look, you could have almost kicked it without running that play that got the pass interference.
Exactly right. You could have done it then.
Could have won the game right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And give them the ball back with 15 or 20 seconds to go.
Yeah. But anyway, look, what it could have, should have. Now, the bad news is,
it's frustrating game.
But here's what's interesting. The pollsters, I know we're going to talk about some pollsters later on other matters, but the pollsters, the people ranking the teams, didn't punish them. We're fourth. And look,
I was surprised. Like, wow, they only dropped a couple of slots. That's
because
it was a well-played game. Up
number
to that
2
point.
and number 3,
and it was a 1-point game.
And the NCAA changed the rule that essentially determined the outcome of the game.
Yeah,
that essentially determined the outcome of the game because if they don't burn those 12 seconds off or 10 seconds off. It was even more than that. It was like 14 seconds. I remember looking at it like, what are you doing? Why is the clock?
Well, it's kind of interesting that the Ducks coach just came out and said, "Yeah, we used it on purpose."
Yeah.
I was just kind of surprised he did. Not that he should lie about it necessarily, but
it's sort of shady.
Yeah.
It makes you feel sort of dirty.
Other than maybe it's that, gotcha. Yep. Kind of snub-nosing it, but I don't know.
Using the rules to win a game, you can't fault that.
Yeah.
You can't fault it.
Yeah, you can't.
No.
I mean, there is a very thinking, intellectual coach right there.
Yep. He came out to win that game, and he did.
Yeah.
Now, I suspect, and I predict, if we're going to make predictions, that we will be playing that team again in the playoffs.
That's if the rankings stay the same,
So Ryan Day he's starting to stack up a plethora of big game losses.
Yeah, I would say
one play away kind of thing. Yeah.
Look, Tressel didn't lose those games. Urban didn't really lose those games.
No.
Woody, like you said, I mean, Woody lost a few, but
he lost,
and he punched a Clemson player. I mean, no big deal, but
right.
So, all right.
Well,
Ohio makes it sort of big, causing the NCAA to change the rules.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
So at least there's that.
Good point.
Yes.
Yeah. Good point.
Yes. So always be an asterisk after that game.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of Ohio, there's some interesting stuff. And speaking of the Buckeyes versus Michigan, which game is always the big epic game, and probably
looming in November.
And even though Michigan's not having a very good year, were Ohio State to somehow succumb to Michigan, I think Mr. Day is gone. So let me just predict that.
Yeah.
So anyway, our friends at the Buckeye Institute, who we've had on the show, are currently suing the University of Michigan over information, over documents, over not complying with FOIA in regards to their medical school and law school admissions policies. And the flow of information, the letters going back and forth between the accrediting organizations for the law school and the medical school and Michigan. And the reason they want that is they believe that they're not complying, like a lot of these universities across the country are secretly not complying with the Harvard decision, which the Supreme Court said you cannot use race as a basis for selecting students into your universities and colleges. And the word is pretty openly, they're doing it anyway. Like they're basically just running roughshod over the Supreme Court decision. And the Buckeye Institute is all about trying to inveigle itself into the Public Records Act. And they started with, our number one foe in football, Michigan, to find out what they're doing vis-a-vis their admissions policies and what kind of secret communications are going back and forth to obviate the Supreme Court decision. So that is a very interesting development.
I was going to say, so what are the consequences if the university does just what you said?
I would turn to Steve and say, what do you think? It's a civil rights violation, so treble damages?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, this will shake out one way or another. But look, civil rights violations under Section 1983 of the U.S. Code, basically, the big remedy there is attorney's fees. So and the reason they did that is so you could get attorneys interested in those cases, because believe it or not, it's hard work to go sue somebody, and it's a lot of hard work. And the people who have suffered constitutional violations often don't have the money to pay for a redress, which is hiring a lawyer. So I don't do that kind of work. I don't get into federal court on 1983, but I know lawyers who do, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
And it's costly. So like the Buckeye Institute or these other sort of special interest groups who do this, they're counting on that kind of award. And now it doesn't mean that typically what lawyers will do, they'll keep track of their hours and their time. And if it's reasonable, they'll get reimbursed for that if they win. But typically they settle. And typically they settle with an amount that accounts for the attorney's fee award. But as far as damage, I mean, look, they're looking for people. They want the documents.
They want the documents.
Yeah. So they're looking for something called specific performance. And then you get into a situation where if the other side, if the government is stalling, maybe they get some fees and costs tacked on for what it took to go procure the documents. But
we'll see what they find.
We'll see what they find.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Little bit of news up in Toledo. Our friend here, Brett, drives a Jeep, and that company is in a lot of trouble, the Stellantis company. They're managed, they're owned out of the Netherlands. And the history of how Chrysler, got rescued by Lee Iacocca and the management team there. And then after he left, it was bought by Mercedes-Benz, and then they got rid of it. And then Obama did a deal with Fiat, where Fiat bought Chrysler. And then Stellantis Corporation out of the Netherlands owns it now. And they're basically, after the UAW contract last year, they're basically, and their pledge to go all EV, they're getting rid of, their corporate trajectory is no more internal combustion engine cars, all EVs. They're sticking with that. And they're talking about laying off half of the UAW that works for them. And they're talking about if the UAW doesn't play ball with them, that they may move that plant to Mexico. That's a Willys Overland plant up in Toledo that then became, a Jeep plant during and after World War II. Yeah. It's a historic site, and people have been building Jeeps or Willys Bantams or whatever you want to call it, whatever it was during those, during the 100 years or whatever it's been. They started building stagecoaches there, and
is that right?
Oh yeah, Willys Overland.
Okay,
built wagons that went out west, and then they started making automobiles. And the reason that the Jeep was made was because it sort of took the place of the horse on Western ranches, where you would take your Jeep out to patrol your fence line instead of a horse, and you could take more equipment with you and et cetera. Don't have to feed it oats or give it water, that kind of thing. But at any rate, Ohio, we had Bernie in here, and I think he said Ohio is the country's largest. If you add up parts made here and cars made here, it's the largest car producing or automotive related state in the country.
Yeah.
And man, if we lose Jeep,
well, that's going to be a huge backlash if that you've got and you get these traditional Jeep owners that love the 419 tattoo in the back. That it was made here in Ohio, so it's there. Plus, it was weird. I was driving behind a Wrangler yesterday, and it's one of the new electric Jeeps, and it's just that it seemed so odd to drive behind a vehicle that is made for durability, just to go out and do the trails, and it's electric.
Yeah,
it's like what an oxymoron.
Doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel. Now I have no problem if the company wants to go all electric, but there are certain models of Jeep you don't do electric.
Well, look,
you can do the Patriot, you can do all the other stuff, the Wagoneer or whatever, but not the JTs.
You're not going off road in an electric car. You're just not going to do it.
Well,
it's not a survival mode truck at all.
Imagine you're in Western North Carolina right now with no power.
Right.
Yeah, your car's dead.
What do you do with an EV?
Yeah.
I mean, look. And the only reason they're making EVs is because the government is giving them money to make EVs. It's not like people want them. Yeah. And if you are one of the people that wants them, great. All more power to you. Yeah. And if there's more of you out there, and there's more of you out there, and there's more of you out there, eventually they'll make them because they're profitable to make them.
Yeah, the market forces will determine.
This is the thumb on the scale problem. The government puts its thumb on that scale, and they make EVs when it's not. The technology's not quite there. They're going to run out of juice, and now you're sitting in North Carolina with no way to get around. You got your bicycle out.
Right. Yeah.
Not even your electric bike.
Another kind of Ohio story that's pinging off of this Amazon purchase of 3 Mile Island is they're talking about the incredible electric consumption of data centers, and Columbus, the general Central Ohio area is becoming a data center capital, and right from the beginning of like the Intel project and Google and Amazon and all these people coming into New Albany and Licking County, there's been this undercurrent, no pun intended, of people saying we're going to get a nuclear power plant. That's what's going to happen. And a lot of people are like, AEP gonna nobody's licensed one forever. Well, they're gonna reboot 3 Mile Island. And Google has what they call modular nuclear plants, which I don't know what that means, modular, but it must be like a certain design that they can replicate with smaller like job site nuclear plants, and
to run the data center itself.
To run the data center itself,
which is smart.
In case something goes down. I mean, it's like perpetual power.
Yeah.
Yes,
right.
And, when you look at solar and wind, those infrastructures are in direct contact with the environment. Like if you look at the path of Helene or Milton through some of these solar farms, they're devastated because they're out in the open. They're in a field. Whereas a nuclear plant, right?
It's contained. It can be protected.
20 feet of concrete or whatever.
Right.
It can be protected.
It's not going to go anywhere.
There's one of those solar farms down in is it Kingston, Ohio, up north of Chillicothe there. And it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's farmland. It's gone.
Yeah.
And it's just this miles and miles of these freaking solar panels.
Well, and there's some corporate welfare going on with that too. So I got the same story, Norm, about this stuff. And here in Columbus, Microsoft is going to get they're going to do the same thing with this, but they're getting 100% property tax abatement on a $420 million data center investment over 15 years. It's going to create 30 jobs.
Yeah.
30 jobs. That's it.
That's crazy.
That's it. Now, coupled with, and I if I remember correctly hearing this, that we're attractive to these data centers because electric is cheaper in Ohio.
Right.
It's not going to, they're going to, right now, I think nationwide, the average is they suck up about 3% of electricity. It's going to be up to 9%. Yeah. Now, I just heard this week.
Yeah, it's going to get more expensive the more people use it.
To that point, Michigan, now in certain areas of Michigan, they have surge charges. Okay. That between 3 and 6 in the afternoon, your electricity is more expensive. Because they know when you're coming home to charge your car.
Yeah. Yep.
Look, somebody's got to pay for it.
And it's not, to me, it's not worth it in the long run. All this abatement crap.
Well,
and for 30 jobs,
for 30 jobs,
for $50,000 working. Again, I don't.
Look, if the market would bear 30 more jobs, then it would, but it doesn't.
But that's not hurrah moments.
No. There's
50
nothing to
jobs? No. And then they're saying,
money?
well, the positive side is we really put a lot of people to work in those 12 to 18 months building this stuff. It's like, again, a Band-Aid.
Yeah, that's not a job.
That's not a job.
Yeah, well, that's a contract.
I could tell
exactly.
you out in Licking County, if you look at the people doing the work, most of them are from out of state.
Yeah, they're migrants.
They're guys from Texas.
They brought them in,
and they're up here and they're renting a house.
Yep.
Look, it's great. It's great in the short term.
When the job's done, they go.
The money isn't staying here.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And
we're going to be hurting for this.
Well, the other problem with these EVs that you sort of hinted on is that now they're going to raise the price for electricity at peak hours, but you're starting to see problems paying for roads and paying for highways because you can't tax the gas.
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? I mean, now these people with EVs are going to start getting taxed in ways that they don't like.
Yeah.
Because I was at a deal.
That's going to raise the bar for everybody.
Yeah. Because when I bought the Jeep, there was the guy was talking about there's extra tax. There's an extra amount you have to pay if you buy an EV on your registration. And some guy just walked away from the deal. He said, I'm not paying that extra $300 on my EV. It's like, dude,
that's in lieu of you paying road tax.
Well,
that's the point of that
exactly. It's like, you think you're going to get a ride on the roads for free?
The rest of them are paying at the
exactly.
pump.
And I am working on a house in Circleville right now. I always have some sort of house going on, and we had to turn the power off, so we had to eliminate the electric in order to do the renovations. We got our permits and everything, and the AEP guy comes out, and they almost were trying to dictate to me what I needed to do to upgrade my power because I'm upgrading it to 200 amp service. Now he said, no, we want you to put 400 amps on the garage, which is detached, run 200 into the house and run 200 into the garage. And I'm like, all right, that sounds like a great idea. And then I went and researched like 400 amp equipment. It's like $10,000 to do what they're talking about. And I talked to my buddy he was a lineman and now he trains linemen. He's in the industry and he's like, oh, he starts laughing. You don't have to do any of that. They're just trying to make everybody do that to charge their EVs. It's like they've got
So I've got one of those when I built my barn dominium. Between my house and my barn.
You put 400 on a pedestal. I'll do that for my house build.
I got a big green box sitting there on a pad, and it's for future development. And they were very clear about that. They were like, well, if we build homes down here on your land someday down the road, the infrastructure is already here.
I can't fault that.
No,
necessarily.
No.
But
so I invested in it. I had to pay for it, like you said.
That I can't fault. You didn't have to. You could have said no.
Well, no, but I said yes, and then that led to me having to pay for it.
Oh, right. They were trying to trick me into putting 400 amp equipment there, and I'm just like, yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I'll put 200 in the garage, and I thought it was like, all right, I'll just get a 200 or 400 amp box and disconnect. And I was like, wait a minute.
It's about a 4 foot by 4 foot big green thing.
Well, that's not what I was going to. Mine was going to be on the side of the garage.
Okay.
It's a meter box. It's a meter base. But for 400 amps, it just gets expensive.
Yeah, this was to tie other.
No, I got you. You had future development.
That's right.
Right.
Well, the last thing I have for Ohio that's on my list, you guys have stuff, is Ohio for a while. The courts had suspended this ban on foreign dark money in elections. And, the legislature said, no, we don't want dark money. We don't want Soros money or whatever. We don't want it. We want transparency of where the money's coming from. And the judge, after staying that, he studied it and ruled this week that to reinstate the ban on foreign money.
So no foreign dark money.
Yeah.
And by dark money, you mean like not obvious what the source is.
Coming in from Ukraine or wherever.
Yeah.
But Soros can still contribute.
So Zelensky can't campaign in Ohio?
Well,
on behalf of one of the Democratic or national presidential candidates?
You've seen an agenda I haven't seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's still ways to contribute to, nonprofits or PACs or whatever you call it. And then, they funnel the money. They run an ad where they don't name a candidate or they say, write letters to Senator so-and-so. But, So it's not really a campaign commercial, but it really is a campaign commercial.
I wonder, what do you guys think of this? Because I have been watching for most of my adult life political ads every big election season, and they get on there, and they're always like really negative or really positive, right? There's never like what somebody's really doing.
Exactly.
They never move the ball for me in any way, shape, or form. So if I'm hearing somebody talking about how horrible Marino is, or how horrible Sherrod Brown is, or how great one or the other is, I'm just like, I don't buy it. And maybe I disagree with that candidate on one way or another, but it's like that ad is not going to swing. But I wonder how much it works. And I also believe in this day and age, the value of those ads has diminished. I don't think people pay attention as much as they do. I think we have tuned out to all the noise.
Yeah, I agree.
And now look, it doesn't mean people are basing their voting decisions on anything better, but I just don't think those are moving the ball.
It never has for me, and I'm seeing a little bit different this year too, or maybe this cycle, but maybe I'm paying more attention that when you see the ad, you see where they're sourcing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, still, you're taking out of that what you want from that source, but it's never moved the needle for me. In fact, I probably watched less TV because I don't watch that much TV anyway.
I think that's part of it.
It still sinks into your, if you're watching YouTube, you're going to see ads pop up, whatever. And
I haven't seen them as much lately, but on YouTube, it seemed like every time I tried to open, because I try to pay attention to news stories for the show.
Yeah.
And every time I opened a news story, it was some Harris ad. She must have spent millions on this stuff.
She has $1 billion to go in the next 2 weeks. She has $1 billion, according to her filings with the FEC, to spend in the next 2 weeks. So it is going to be wall-to-wall solid. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable.
Wow. Well, look, I wanted to bring this up when you were talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes game because it's sports.
Okay.
How about the Tribe, man? The Cleveland or the Indian or the Guardians. I can't say it's not the Indians.
They won last night.
They won last night. Okay. So they were down 2 up in New York, and came back to Cleveland, pulled off an extra inning victory. So they're on
home run with one guy on. Right?
Yeah. I think a walk-off, right?
Yeah.
So go Tribe, man. I didn't expect that. I didn't watch the game. I read the headlines, and because I was like, they're going to lose. I saw it. And it's like I just can't watch it.
They have the Browns disease. They're going to lose.
And then last week up in Detroit when they beat the Tigers, and they did it in similar fashion. A big grand slam home run or something. Yeah. So Ohio sports making it big.
Yeah, and then the Reds bringing out of retirement a new manager.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a manager from the Guardians, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, Cleveland.
I can't think of his name. Bad on me. I just thought of it.
Well, he had been retired for like 3 years.
Yeah, something like that. So, but he's got a great record. He's got a great record.
Here's what we need here. So, look, everybody listen. If you think you got the chops at Channel to come here and join Channel 511 and be a part of Common Sense Ohio, and you're a sports guy, we need a sports guy.
You can tell how lame we are with sports.
It's like I don't have the time to follow it all. I watch the Buckeyes. I watch this, but somebody wants to give us a
right.
There's one sport I know a lot about, and I won my race last week.
Oh, did you? Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But I was going to bring in a checkered flag, but that's obnoxious.
Yes,
it's like wearing the concert T-shirt the next day. Is that what? No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying
it is a crime, in fact. But anyway,
so I road race, but I love this drag racing T-shirt, so I wore this.
Sure.
Business as usual on the national front. This is just terrible. And whether Kamala or Donald gets elected, I just don't see how we have the strength of character as a country to address our debt problem. So the House, which is just barely GOP controlled, I mean, I wouldn't call it really controlled, like 10 vote margin. The House passed a $1.5 trillion debt bomb budget this past week. And, it's going to go to the Senate, and I'm sure Joe's going to sign it. And it's one of these continuing, resolution solutions. But we're a country that can't tell anybody no. And we're a country that can't, once a program's created and people get dependent on it, either mentally or actually dependent, either way, we can't seem to bring back these programs. They're still doing PPP, for God's sakes, for COVID. They're still giving out money for that. In fact, in North Carolina and Florida, where the hurricanes hit, they're accelerating payments to PPP filers to give them this forgivable debt money. And I mean, COVID's been over with for a while in terms of whatever emergency, you want to claim, even though there's COVID mutants that we're still all getting. But it's ridiculous that they're spending like this. So
what you saw, you could still submit to get PPP. Is that what you're saying?
People who have been waiting for decisions are getting them accelerated now.
Okay, but still,
if they're in the hurricane,
I figured it was done too. I figured it was done too.
Are they PPP decisions or ERC decisions?
They're
the
PP.
Earned Employee Retention Credit.
They're both.
Because I mean, look,
they're both.
But still, yeah.
There are still people waiting on the ERC money that like half the people got, and then they just stopped processing claims, so the other half haven't gotten it. So this is the problem once you start the faucet. It's like, where do you shut it off, and how's it fair to anybody who didn't get it? And you can't. So look, you can't stop once you start. So somebody, sometime, somewhere is going to have to put their foot down.
Yeah.
When whoever becomes president, whoever is in Congress, like at some point, they're going to have to put their foot down and say, enough's enough.
Either
we don't have it.
Or we're the Weimar Republic. The dollar bill will be worth more as wallpaper than as currency.
And I don't think I see it from either party.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think it,
because
Trump will turn it the way he wants to, which fine.
Well, Trump has already said he's not touching the quote, and they call them entitlements now.
Yeah,
it's like,
dude.
Norm, we read this book, Amity Shea's book, The Great Society with Johnson and everything, and
stop it.
She's got another book out too. I saw her talking about, but it's like, look, these weren't entitlements. Like they were just, it was some Johnson ego New Deal extension that wasn't even necessary at the time.
No.
It was just stupid.
And again, DC marches on with its idiocy. The FBI, surreptitiously updating its crime stats.
Oh, that was one of my outrages.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. We'll save that because that is outrageous. Yeah. But this is just more swamp behavior. Federal judge in Georgia overturned 7 election reforms 2 weeks before the elections. And one of them was a Georgia law that required a backup hand count to the electronic.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's shift gears and talk about, this is our And Justice for All segment. We might as well just shift gears.
Go ahead.
So we've got the news with Norm. Now we got And Justice for All. We try to talk about some of these legal cases and stuff going on, or police blotter stuff. And, Ohio had a recent decision too. And I saw Texas had a decision. Georgia's got decisions. And it just so happens that they tend to swing. It's like,
isn't that funny?
So look, my take on all this stuff is very simple. Why would anybody care about making a more secure election, about passing rules to make the election more secure?
Right.
So
how is that controversial?
How is it controversial at all?
Unless you want people to cheat.
Unless it's trampling on civil rights.
Unless it's trampling on civil rights.
Which is what they're saying.
Yeah, but it's always a trope. It's always a straw man type of argument.
Right.
Look, what's the like the voter ID? I just find it reprehensible to think that some minority or some poor person doesn't have access to identification. They do, and we're giving it away for free. Right. And then the one in Ohio had to do with who is permitted. I guess Frank LaRose had promulgated a rule that said you can't have third parties dropping stuff in dropping ballots in remote ballot boxes. And of course, there's a challenge to that. And this went up in the federal courts first, and the federal courts basically said, no, you have to, as long as the rule is now this: family and designated people are able to do it, and you can always drop off your ballot at the election place,
right?
And you can always mail it in.
Yeah.
So we're talking about like remote ballot boxes. So when you start to winnow it down, like the headlines say unfair, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you start to winnow it down, it's like, how bad is that really?
Right.
Like say my wife is broken her leg and she can't drop off her ballot. I can.
Yes.
I just can't go to the middle of nowhere and drop it off in a remote ballot drop. I have to go to the Board of Elections or mail it.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, we have, I didn't think about this. We have remote drop boxes in every city. It's called a post office box.
It is called a post office box, right?
Put the stamps on it, and you can.
Yes.
And where was the litigation I saw about there was some, was it Wisconsin? Was it Michigan? I can't remember, where they wanted to take the cameras off. There were remote cameras on these boxes,
right?
And
they wanted to take
somebody
the
in the Democrats
off.
Was petitioning to remove those. It's like, why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why would you not want surveillance of what has to be the most protected box in the world?
And look,
where we're putting our ballots.
It's not chilling anybody's. So look, now this is an interesting constitutional theory. So and it go back to like freedom of speech, go back to your right to exercise or a right to have a lawyer, those kind of things. So the Supreme Court it's not just that the government can't violate your rights. So it's that they can't create an obstacle that sort of chills your exercise of those rights. So if you know that you're going to get in trouble for saying things in the public street, in a public forum that would otherwise be free speech, it's going to chill the freedom of speech. So it's not that it violates your right immediately, it's that it prevents you or discourages you from exercising it.
Yeah.
Those are equal constitutional violations. So a good example would be with respect to your right to counsel, your right to have a lawyer. The prosecutor can't stand up in a courtroom later and say, what does this guy do first? Goes and hires a lawyer. First thing he does is hire a lawyer. He must be guilty.
Or outrageous permit fees to speak.
Yeah, same kind of thing.
If the Klan or the Catholic Church or the Jewish, ADL, if a group wants to have a speech on the campus of the state capitol, right, and they say, well, you have to pay $100,000 fee.
Right. And that chills the exercise, right? So you can't chill the exercise or discourage the exercise of a constitutional right, nor can you punish somebody for exercising their constitutional rights, such as like the right to counsel argument.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm only bringing this up to say I am very in tune with this, right? Because I raise these arguments all the time in my practice, all the time. I don't see that here. I don't see requiring somebody to have an identification card that they already probably have,
right,
to go vote,
right.
And I just don't see it. Or saying you can't deliver to a remote ballot box when you can deliver it over here. Or put it in the mail, like you said.
Well, or you're already there at the box. You just get out of your car and go into the office, the Board of Elections office, where the drop box is, and give it to them.
Yeah, but I don't
literally get out of the car and do it versus dropping it in the box.
None of
You're
this,
there already.
None
or
of
in
this
Texas
is like the old Jim Crow laws.
No, it's not. It's not even close.
Where you have to come in and prove that you're literate.
Right.
Read this page.
That would be a chill.
Exactly.
Or that would discourage people from exercising their right to vote. We're not doing that.
We're not. No.
And then in Texas, like now there's states out there that have banned, and Texas is one of them. It's trying to ban vote harvesting or ballot harvesting, where people are knocking on doors, grabbing ballots, and talking people into voting, and then delivering a form.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you in favor of that?
Yeah.
Like, why really are you in favor of that?
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're just saying, well, look, we're doing this for the downtrodden. Well, it's interesting you're not doing it for the downtrodden in areas where they're going to vote Republican.
Right.
Right. So
exactly.
It's so it's like there's always some ulterior motive. It's lies. It's
for sure.
It's a little sleight of hand. Look over here.
Mm-hmm.
So look, at some point, could it go too far? Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm in tune with this. I raise these constitutional issues all the time. I am skeptical of everything the government does. I have fought the government my entire career, at least in the criminal defense realm, and this one doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Well, and staying with the voting, I heard that they are North Carolinians are voting.
Oh yeah,
They
good.
They kind of fix things up that they now can vote if they opted to vote early. The systems are in play.
Yeah,
which is great. You don't want that kind of effect to it, and that's pretty amazing that things are cleaned up that quickly that they can.
Yeah.
That's good. Or getting there. That they have the ability to go vote. So that's a good thing too. Yeah.
Couple international and one national business thing. I just think we have to acknowledge the epic nature of Walgreens and True Value both going bankrupt and possibly completely out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I mean, those are old-time American companies.
I heard True Value piece of it, but
thousands and thousands of employees, and just it's kind of a sign that the economy really is still sick. It's very sick.
Well, it's not only sick; it's slanted. It's like and this has been going on for a long time. Where the big box places have the capacity to survive with less profit margin so they can reduce their prices. They can pay the extra freight that the government is putting on things.
Yeah.
So when the government starts to regulate, it always translates into more overhead for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger stores can handle that overhead and still survive.
Yeah.
The smaller stores cannot. So, this is
the cyber stores in particular.
And the cyber stores.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Amazon, I think, has a pharmacy now, right? I mean,
I think you're right.
Online and a lot of telemed is going on, and a lot of, so look, I mean, I get it. And you can't, these places can't survive, and it's too bad. I mean,
because there are people who still physically go to a pharmacist to get their prescription. There's old timey people. Well, I guess I'm one of them.
No, we do. Yeah.
I go past the window, and I'm not currently on.
So Walgreens is under CVS. What's the health on CVS?
Good question.
I don't know. I know
and Kroger is trying to merge with every grocery store that's left, and has that big case out in Colorado where they're going to buy whatever the hell, Albertsons or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I thought this was interesting, guys, and this doesn't fit our category, but the Nobel Peace Prize this year went to the survivors of the atomic bombs in Japan. And I thought that was a very
it's an interesting
pick.
Like, why this year?
Don't know, man. Well, probably very few of them left alive,
Okay.
I mean, that generation, if you were a kid.
Under what category?
Peace Prize.
The Peace Prize. Oh, the Peace Prize itself. Okay, because I know they're different.
Peace Prize. So apparently it's a group of anti-war. The specific group that they honored is made up of survivors, Hiroshima-Nagasaki, that are speaking out against the use of nuclear weapons, of course. And that is their motivation. They speak and they hold ceremonies and things. And, of course, there's a counter argument to be made that Harry Truman and Curtis LeMay and Paul Tibbets, who was piloting
Ohio, makes it big again.
Yeah, they ended the war.
Yeah,
doing that.
The people tend to oversimplify this.
Yes,
and both sides tend to oversimplify
they do.
This is a very complicated problem.
It's a complicated problem, and it's an ugly bit of warfare. And my call. I've said this, so this is not revealing anything. I had always wished the military and President Truman had dropped those weapons on purely military targets.
Right.
Instead of on a city. I almost can't get over that.
Yeah, but wouldn't it? I don't know how much different it would have been, because the military targets at that point were the cities. I mean, they were in the cities, I think. I don't know that for sure.
Very good argument. I mean,
and were they able to pinpoint like we can today?
A very good argument.
But I agree with you. It's like that. It was.
We were wielding a power that had never been even conceived.
Yeah,
and look, it worked. Stopped the war.
It stopped the war
almost in its tracks.
So, do those guys get the Peace Prize because they stopped the war? Right?
That's right.
It's
a complicated question.
It's very complicated.
It is.
But I thought that would be an interesting thing to contemplate for our viewers and listeners to think about because, there, like you say, Steve, there's multiple sides to the use of that weapon. I mean, certainly Japan, militaristic Japan at that point was doing germ warfare experiments on prisoners. They had stuff going on that Dr. Mengele,
well, and it's somewhat
in Germany was doing.
It's somewhat relevant today with the war going on with Israel and Hamas,
right,
and soon to probably be Iran,
right,
and. It's like, where do you stop?
That's right.
Where do you stop when people are when you have an enemy that says we are going to fight to the very last man and the very last island and the very last outpost, and our citizens are going to take up arms against you if you invade our cities.
Yeah,
it's like what do you do? How do you handle that when you're
children wearing suicide vests?
Like, how do you handle that?
How do you handle
and it almost. At some point, it denigrates to fighting fire with fire. I'm not a military philosopher, but I can see how it gets there, and I can see how, as torturous of a moral debate there is, like you just have to do it. You just at some point you just have to do it. Truman just says, "Look, do it, end the war. Let's bring our boys home, end this war."
How can I face the mothers of American soldiers that I did not use a weapon to end the war as early as possible? How could I look them in the eye knowing their sons died because I delayed using this
and then
weapon?
Add another dimension to the three-dimensional and now four-dimensional chess board that was at play then. It's like you had the Soviet Union out there, and you needed to tell Stalin, look, we got it.
Yeah.
We got the goods here.
It was a lot of pounding chest.
A lot of posturing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean,
it was.
We established ourselves as the superpower of the world and ended the war and brought our boys home almost in like overnight. Yeah. So, all right. So, look, we've got...
you want to do that outrage? That fits into the justice.
Yeah, we can get to the outrage,
FBA,
but I do want to talk, before we get to the wonderfully outrageous, let's talk a little bit about, did anybody watch Kamala Harris's first interview with Brett Baer?
Incredible.
It was
incredible. Well, some of her answers were unbelievably deceptive and evasive.
It was an interesting. I wondered. We were talking about this.
I'm going to obey the law.
I was curious why she would sign up for this, and I actually it made me skeptical of the whole thing. Like why on earth do that? If you're in her shoes, why? I mean, so it does reflect that they're a little bit concerned. I think that she's behind.
Oh yeah.
On the other hand, they must have thought that there was an advantage to be had. And there was some answers that she gave. Like if you're in favor of Kamala Harris, she did a decent job. She fought back. She wasn't going to get pushed around by Brett Baer. But I agree with you. She didn't answer any of the questions. She didn't answer the hard questions, and she evaded them. And she even got a little bit angry at times. I think they were trying to show her as like somebody who could scrap and fight and do these things. Yeah. So, but I guess my ultimate assessment of this is it was a draw. I think if you like Kamala Harris, you still do. If you don't like Kamala Harris, you still don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it moved it either way.
What I want from any candidate is, particularization of their policies, and she gives nothing.
She wasn't going to do that. She doesn't have it.
And it's funny you say that because, of course, when you turn 50, you get everything from AARP.
Right.
So their latest newspaper, whatever the hell it's called,
right?
So it's talking about the issue specific to older adults, and they ask both candidates, and I'm reading the answers from both, from Harris and Trump. Neither one of them are specific.
No, they don't.
I'm thinking, of course, his is ramble. Hers says nothing at all. Hers is succinct but says nothing. His is rambling around everything. It's like,
that's right.
And I read the whole thing going, neither one of you told me anything on any of the questions.
The problem with Kamala,
it's like that's driving me crazy about to even say what's going on.
No, I'm with
you.
Look, this is a very typical political response, and even JD did better, I think, than a lot of people on this. But even he sort of backed off a little bit on the January 6th stuff and some other stuff. But irrespective of that, the problem Kamala has that I don't think she'll ever outrun is that she's been in office here for 3.5 years.
That's right.
In answer to one of Brett's questions, she said, well, an administration has to take responsibility for what it's done. And she was referring to Trump's administration.
But not hers, right?
Yeah, but not hers.
Right. Okay, yeah.
And it's like, wow, that would be my commercial if I was Trump.
Look,
sure.
Like if you're JD and you sort of get pressed, and he's done a good job of this because there was a time when he was pressed on the fact that he didn't support Trump.
Yeah.
And he said, look, at that time I didn't. Now I've seen what his presidency looked like. Now I do support him.
Well, Kamala called Joe a racist.
Right.
And he picked her as VP.
Yeah. But again, it's all sort of semantical political games. Yeah. But, when Kamala says, what bothers me is that it seems so painfully obvious to me that as soon as Biden took the White House, the border was opened.
Yes.
And it was a floodgate.
Absolutely.
And they deny that.
And Brett said, Kamala, do you regret giving up the stay in Mexico policy that President Trump...
She's like, well, it was the other side for not passing the law. It's like,
oh, God.
Yeah, she completely avoided it.
It's a lie.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me. So, why not just say, you know what? Looking back on this, we thought we were doing good. We weren't. We're going to fix that in the next 4 years. Just say it. Say it.
And to that answer right there, does that hurt you?
No.
I would rather hear somebody say, we made a mistake. Maybe it was a bad judgment call or a bad call on that. We got to fix it, though.
Well,
I don't see a problem with that.
But she's trying to please too many masters.
My outrage to slide into this, because this all sort of fits together, is when Kamala does come up with a specific policy like taxing unrealized capital gains, right? And that blew up in her face,
yes.
right? And
price fixing groceries.
Right. her latest is a $20 billion handout. She's trying to buy the votes of black men. So she came up with this idea of giving $20,000 to 1 million black men, not black women, not white men, not white women, just black men who she has a problem with in the polls. So she came up with this economic proposal to hand $20,000 to 1 million black men to start up entrepreneurial businesses. Well, that's who her pollsters are saying she's weak with right now, and she needs those votes. So she comes up with a handout. She's playing Santa Claus, and there couldn't be anything more discriminatory than deciding to give entrepreneurial forgivable loans on the basis of your skin color and your gender. Like, that flies in the face of everything America stands for. And I think black men know this and see that. And she's not going to buy their votes doing this. And what she's revealing is her fear that she's losing this election. And she's throwing this out there to try to capture that segment of the voting.
Yeah,
if I were a black woman, I'd be pissed.
Well, and
come on,
I'm pissed as a white guy.
And when you dig into it, it's not just black men, but that's what she's targeting. So it is blatant pandering.
It's unreal.
It's bribery.
It's almost billion.
Like it's electoral bribery.
Well,
it is.
And on the outside, it's like, ooh, that sounds good. It's like the stipulate, even the $25,000 first home buyer kind of stuff. All the stipulations behind that. Right, it's like you have to be the only. None of any other your other family members can have owned a home.
Right. So who's going to get that money? The illegal immigrants.
Again, I understand. I understand why. The thought process behind it's honorable. But it's the devil's in the details.
It's honorable, but it always sounds good and it never works. So it's like you said, these kind of things are only judged by what they sound like and never what they can actually do.
So Brett, I'm gonna push back on the honorable. So like a philosopher economist like Thomas Sowell would say, what you're doing when you give that $25,000, you're taking it from somebody else.
Yeah, but he's not calling it honorable for that reason. He's saying, look,
I know what you mean, though. Yes,
it sounds good, is what you're saying. It sounds like it's
honorable. Is probably not a great.
Santa Claus sounds good, sure, but Santa had elves making the gifts,
and out
of nothing.
Right? I guess it's honorable that they're recognizing there's a problem there, but at the same time, if you give somebody $25,000, guess what? The price of whatever that person's buying just upped it by about $20,000.
So look, all you have to do is look at school tuition.
It does,
and your tax debt, and your grandchildren and your children, it goes up.
Oh, exactly,
because
exactly.
It's not
free. You can.
It's almost like we've never done this before, like back in prior to 2008.
Yeah.
Where we subsidized mortgages.
The subprime.
Right. It's like
the subprime crisis.
Look at history.
All right. Well, let's look. Let's hit the wonderfully outrageous. I know, Norm, you're chomping at the bit to talk about the FBI, and I think we both find that outrageous.
It's also wonderful they got busted.
It's wonderful they got busted, right? So it's like they go in, and this came up in the J.D. Vance debate, I think.
And in the Trump debate.
And in the Trump debate. They were talking about the FBI crime stats, and the Dems were touting that violent crime was down.
David Muir fact-checked Trump and said, well, actually, the FBI says crime is down.
And Trump, in his uneloquent way, tried to refute that. And
he
was
said
right.
He said they cherry-picked the data.
They cherry-picked the data, which is right. They did. They didn't report certain violent crime. And then later on, they sort of sneak in a little update, but it's not published.
Right.
So if you go look now, it's not that crime is down 2.5%; it's up like 4.7%. Right. Violent crime. So that's outrageous.
Yeah.
And so but we should explain why that's outrageous. It's not just because they're lying. It's because it's the freaking FBI. We're paying for them. It's the government information. Right. It's like, if we're going to pay for a federal law enforcement agency, then we want the truth.
It has to be nonpartisan.
Yeah, we want the truth.
With just facts.
So this shows an obvious bias towards the Democratic Party, and it stinks.
Yeah.
It stinks. And I would say the same thing if it were going the other way.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing.
It's like the jobs reports. They come out with rosy job reports every month, and then they revise them downward.
And then they revise them, right?
Yeah.
And it's
they did the same thing on job reports. You're exactly right. This stinks. This is BS.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of stuff. We were talking about political ads earlier. This kind of stuff actually does, I think, help that party, because, I think people do look at the FBI as like a valid source for violent crime.
They want to.
It's not a political ad paid for. I endorse this ad. This is the FBI. This is like an institution that we should be able to rely on. This shows that we have institutions that are either captured or on their way.
When I was a little kid, there was a show called The FBI. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., right? And these were the cowboys with the white hats. These were the guys.
Good guys. Right.
These were the good guys. They were out there busting up the Klan. They were busting up, human trafficking.
Uncorruptible.
Right. You could not bribe an FBI agent.
The idea was the federal government. Look, it was failed ab initio from the beginning. The idea is we have the federal government who is going to be not uncorruptible by local influence, and maybe that's true, but they're corruptible by national influence.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So it's like they're still human, folks.
Yeah.
They're still imperfect, and they're still subject to corruption. And the problem with the administrative state, the deep state like this, is the checks and balances aren't there.
Yeah. And it is said that J. Edgar Hoover, to underscore your point, had dossiers like on the Kennedy brothers, and he throttled them with, the allegation is that he had stuff on John and Bobby, and he's like, you're going to keep me on as director of the FBI.
Or this is getting out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're given, like...
It becomes a kingdom.
Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
So anyway, go read Lord Acton quotes. It's actually pretty interesting. So anyway, is that the outrage for everybody?
Well, that's my wonderful thing that they got busted.
Outrage. Well, and we probably will go over this in the near future. The Secret Service in the findings of what is wrong with that is amazing. That's just. For the protection for both parties is outrageous. Absolutely. The Secret Service. I don't even understand why the Secret Service is not run by the Army. These guys don't know what they're doing.
If you privatized it, you could have somebody to fire.
It was in the Treasury Department like the FBI used to be. Yeah. And now it's in Department of Homeland Security. Which is a nightmare.
It sounds like they don't know what they. Well, the report is showing they don't know what they're doing.
Well,
they don't know what they're doing.
Nobody fires anybody.
Who's the head? Mayorkas.
But this is the problem. It's like they're not going to get fired, and because there's no accountability. If you screwed up like that in the private sector, you would be gone.
Yeah.
I would be fired. If I represented somebody and dropped the ball like that, I should be fired. I should be disbarred.
They said in Pennsylvania they had 4, maybe 5 ways of communicating with each other. Text, cell phone, walkie-talkie. It's like, you guys got to be kidding me.
Right. Where's the protocols? Where's it?
Got to be
this is degraded to lunacy.
So you got 5 things hanging on your body and trying to figure out what you're going to listen to and talk on.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It is outrageous.
We need to be better protection for our big name politicians. Well, them all.
Well,
we can't afford to have some lunatic kill
any of these people.
Right.
Any
of them.
Yeah.
All right. What's wonderful? Your FBI exposure is wonderful.
For me, that's
Doritos and Ruffles are going to be putting more in their bag now.
Oh.
No shrinkflation temporarily. Okay. So you buy a bag of Ruffles, Doritos is going to have more in it.
You get a little bit more.
So I think that's great.
And mine
go on healthy food.
Mine is the Circleville Pumpkin Show.
Yep.
The greatest show on the planet. And why is it wonderful?
He's getting paid, I think.
Here's why it's wonderful. Here's why it's wonderful. Not just because my wife is from Circleville and my in-laws are from Circleville.
And that would be enough.
I now own property in Circleville.
Sure.
And I also will confess that I get a little perturbed that I have to drive around the city in order to get where I need to go. But it's wonderful because it shows that there is still local interaction in our country in the small towns. Yeah. And that, folks, is where we win this war.
Yeah.
That's where we win the war for America. Yeah. And I'm not saying on behalf of anybody other than for America. Because when you go there and you see families with baby carriages pushing or baby strollers, pushing them through, interacting with each other, when you see old friends meet up on the corner of Court and Main, where the big pumpkin is, where you see...
It is all about community.
Yeah, it's community.
The people solving problems in North Carolina where the devastation is. Yes, FEMA has its role, but in the immediate aftermath, it's those veterans, firemen, policemen.
You're seeing neighbors. I saw a YouTube video like
they're helping each other.
YouTube video where they're like, they come back and they look through their house. And she almost said it in passing. We're going to make sure our tool shed is clean. Then we're going to go help the neighbors over there. And it's like, that, folks.
That's their impulse is to help other people.
Yes. And that, I think, is unique. I don't want to say uniquely American, but that is American.
It is American.
And we need more of that.
We need more.
And that means we need less of the federal government putting the yoke on us.
And we need less divisiveness. I don't want anybody playing race games or gender games anymore. We're all people. Treat us all the same. If there is a federal program, do not taint it with race or gender. Let everybody participate equally. There'll be less envy, less resentment, and we'll come together as a community.
Right. Now, you've talked about like the worst of human emotion, resentment, envy, pride. I mean, you're right. And these things trigger those responses.
They trigger those responses.
All right. Well, we've gone over by 7 or 8 minutes, perhaps, but this is Common Sense Ohio. You can check us out at Common Sense Ohio Show. We appreciate your support. We are getting comments. We are getting questions. Leave it in the comments if you've got something you want us to cover. If you disagree with Norm, as we often do, let him know. He's great.
I disagree with Norm.
He's great at. You will never get the last word online with Norm, I promise, because I've tried. No, but in all seriousness, if you disagree with something we said, or you want us to cover something, or even if you do agree, I love hearing it because we're trying to provide this show to you folks for a reason. Because we think common sense it should not be passé. It should be in the front. It should be what's governing all our decisions. And that's why we are coming at you right from the middle here in Ohio, commonsenseohioshow.com.